Many African Americans were excited, ecstatic when President Barack Obama was elected, the first African American president ever, the 44th president of the United States. But the question many still continue to ask is, have African Americans benefited from this historic presidency? Well, in a new book, Julianne Malveaux, economist, talks about this particular issue. The book is called Are We Better Off? Race, Obama, and Public Policy. She and I talked about exactly who has benefited the most from the election of President Barack Obama.
No, but we're not worse off either. Essentially, there's a line in the book I use to say, yes, we can. No, he didn't. He didn't push us forward, but he didn't move us backward. He missed an opportunity.
Okay, when we say he missed an opportunity, specifically in what area, in what way?
In every area, Roland. He has targeted certain communities, but he's never targeted the African American community. So, for example, I would have loved to see the kind of passion when he talked about transgender issues that he had to talk about African American issues. He never said to any school, I will withhold your civil rights money if you don't, if you discriminate. We got black kids thrown out of school 3 times as often as white kids are. We have black kids suspended, expelled, all of that. 3 times as likely, less likely to graduate, all of that. But we can go down the list and look at any number of other things. He simply has not been a champion of African Americans in the same way that he's been a champion of others.
One of the areas that we discuss on this show that has been very contentious has been the relationship between this president and HBCUs.
Yes.
Parent Plus loan, and that's been real hard for a lot of HBCU supporters who say, Mr. President, that's my man, when they look at those policies.
Well, and Jim Clyburn has been the best, the most staunch advocate of HBCUs. And as you know, when this happened, I was the president of Bennett College. This was the most ridiculous thing that I had ever experienced in my lifetime, that an African American president would put our money on the table, $85 million that Bush put in there. Let me repeat myself, that Bush put in there that he was going to take out. That was money for our infrastructure. It was money that was designed to help us catch up in terms of the technology that we didn't have and things like that. It was insanity that this president would do that. And then there's a chart in the book, $85 million in 2008 down to $78 million by 2014. In addition, the regular awards Part B from Title III going from $238 million down to $223 million. Now, some people will say it was sequester, all that, but there was an insensitivity to HBCUs and a sense that we didn't, quote, deserve the money. Now, the $85 million, after a lot of back and forth, it was restored. But it was a lot of back and forth, and really it put HBCUs and the president at odds very early in his administration, and that should not have been the case.
Do you believe that when you talk about what we didn't get, we could have gotten? And we've had this discussion, we had both of them on, Dr. Cornel West, Tabitha Smiley, and so many others. And I've said this because I've seen it. I've said that black folks are still at the inauguration parade and everybody else left that day. That we have been so happy with the symbolism
yes.
of a black first family that the vigor in which we demanded, well, I say it this way, he's the first black president, but also the 44th president. We focused on the first black and forgot the 44th and what we demanded of the previous 43.
Exactly. Well, you know, my line is, you won't get fed in your mama's house if you don't bring your plate to the table. We didn't bring our plate to the table. We sat around, we so happy. Even members of the CBC that I talked to, they were not prepared to jam him. They were, you know, I mean, I think that in the speech he gave at CBC, you were there, when he started talking, put on your marching shoes. That was offensive. That was condescending. And I think maybe some of them got it then. But the fact is that the CBC, many in the CBC, were too proud of him to jam him. And jamming him was not an act of disrespect. It was an act of utmost respect, because here's what we end up with, Roland. We end up with a 45th president whether they're Democrat or Republican, who if we say to Hillary, why are you cutting money from HBCUs? She will say, why are you jamming me? You didn't jam Barack. And that's, so see, that becomes a part of it.
So how are you going to respond when black folks say, well, Julianne, you just hating. You just hating.
I would say read my book. It's not, you read it, it's not hateful. It's balanced. I mean, initially we called the book Ambivalence because it really, I mean, I'm proud of President Obama. You can't be black and not be proud of President Obama. Every time he sort of swags onto Air Force One, I'm like, yes. At the same time, I want to know what he's doing for our people.
Symbolism and substance are both important, but you kind of need both.
You need both. You don't need just one. And what we have done, too many black people have drunk the symbolism Kool-Aid. And it's Kool-Aid. And when you walk away and step back, even with the pardons that he's done, which I think are great, got 9,000 people in federal prisons for minor drug offenses. He's pardoned, I guess, around 300 or so.
Is it
more?
No, it's more than that. But some folks say, look, that he needs to rapidly. First of all, even to meet the goal that he has, he needs to rapidly increase it.
And he can do a blanket. He can do a blanket pardon, but he won't. And if he did reparations, I mean, I don't think that white folks are ever going to write black people a check that says, here's your money. But I do think that this president could appoint a commission, and of course the Institute of the Black World has a commission on reparations on which I serve, and have asked him to appoint a John Hope Franklin Commission on reparations to look at some of these issues. There's so many things. Nobody can do anything to him now. What's he got? 8 months? Nobody can do anything. Why don't you, brother, for once, be real black for me? For once, just lift your fist up or something. He's not going to do it, and the fact is that we haven't pushed him, and now we really can't.
All right. The book is called Are We Better Off? Race, Obama, and Public Policy. Dr. Julianne Malveaux. The forward is by Donna Brazil. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. News 1 Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV 1.